hidden dagger straight through the heart. Elva sat there for what it seemed to Eragon an entire week. She wished to be recognized by one of the eggs as its rider and have it hatched for her. He could see in her eyes her desire, eagerness. It would not fade away with time. He suspected that, if necessary, she would spend centuries serving as Arya's protector just to have a little chance to be a rider. For him, it seemed like a fair deal. He waited by the door for her to finish her introspection, leaned against the wall. It was not the moment to rush her, but he wished she would be done soon. He was anxious to have a conversation with the elder ones about his departure. Elva must have read his discomfort, for she stood up, and after a last touch on a purple egg, she turned to leave. As she walked to stand by his side, she spoke. "Those rocks are the reason you won't go back to Alagezia, right?" For some reason, hearing her talk about the Eldenari as rocks sounded funny to him. They are the biggest reason, yes. He had not told her yet about how he and Saphira would join Arya and Fernan on their return home. The only thing she knew was that if she wanted to touch the eggs, now was the moment for that. You should be careful, or soon you will become a big, heavy rock too, impossible to move. What do you mean? I always thought you were a man, not a plant to have roots. But here you are, planted inside this mountain. She needs you, you know. Eragon looked at her as she leaned against the wall by his side, eyes staring longingly at the eggs. Is she intervening in Arya's favor? How odd. Arya does not need me. She wants me near, that's different. Elva shook her head and gave him a sarcastic smile, and she is a liar. She tells you she has everything under control and that she is fine. She's a liar. There are many things you don't know, Shadeslayer. And for her sake, try to find them out. His heart sunk. If Arya was in pain, he wished to know. And he was the one to blame for it. There was another reason for him to know it. What do you know, Elva? He turned to her, but she avoided his stare. I know she is the quiet type. She will bleed to death before she lets anyone know she's hurt. Her protective behavior toward Arya made Eragon think that his plan had worked better than he anticipated. With Elva caring about Arya, it would be so much easier to keep her near Arya, protecting and shielding her from harm. It also concerned him, for it sounded that Arya was keeping important information from him. Elva threw a last glance toward the eggs, then turned to leave. I'll tell you this again, Shadeslayer. Make her confide in you at all costs. You will be doing her a favor, even if she doesn't know that yet. Elva left, and Eragon felt miserable. He thought Arya already confided in him, but apparently she was carrying a load heavier than she could handle. Shaking his head to put it aside for the moment, he approached the Eldenari and knelt before them. Masters, I wish to ask for your guidance. So the time has come. Umaroth spoke first. You do not need our guidance, my boy. Just go, Gleeder added. Eragon silenced for a few seconds. So they wouldn't oppose it. What if going back to Alagezia meant breaking the oath? His mind raced with all the doubts and insecurities he had. I want to be sure I am not breaking the oath by leaving. You are sure. But also afraid. That's understandable, said Gleeder. Will you come with me, masters? He heard a hushed sound of many voices speaking to each other inside his mind. Feeling the general intention behind those voices, he already knew the answer. We will not, Umaroth said. We found our forever home here, where we can watch over you and Saphira Bjartskila, even from a distance. We will lend you our eyes, but we cannot leave. Eragon was disappointed but not surprised. He always had a feeling that the Eldenari were too powerful to be in the hands of one individual, and that this notion was shared by them. Volunteering to go with Arya was a great risk for them, proven true by recent events, so he would not insist on the matter if their wish was to stay. And I will find someone to watch over you too. Maybe Blurdgum. We are sure you will find a suitable candidate, Eragon. We trust you. Those words coming from Umaroth were humbling to him. He thanked the Old One and stood up to leave. Before he could say his goodbye, Gleeder spoke to him as his stone shone brighter than any other. Take me home. Eragon stared at the golden Eldenari, confused. Master to the crags, Eragon. Take me home to the crags of Telnia. Eragon's concerns about Lord Deathada were not as nonsensical as Arya had always made him think they were. They had an odd friendship that even Arya couldn't quite understand. He had been there for her, even when her methods seemed strange to him, but she always felt he had second intentions behind his loyalty. She had kept it to herself, but now that Eragon was threading the unstable ground that was the elven politics, even if he didn't know it yet, she had to pay more attention to the signs and act carefully. The fact that the elf had chosen to come east instead of going back home to Silthrim or even Illyra made her think. Eragon complained about being watched by the elf, so she started thinking about it. She would find him observing the combat training, led by Eragon almost every day. He sat by Eragon's side for almost every meal. He asked for his opinion on matters that were the banalist aspects of life, such as the snow that started to fall last night. This behavior intrigued her, so she invited Eragon to attend a meeting with Deathada in hopes to find out more about it. Or at least to get Eragon annoyed enough to make him speak up about his discomfort and sort out that situation between them. She told Eragon before about how the Lord was misleading her into making the wrong decisions. It made him think as well. She knew that the bad dream he had about Arya and Deathada meant a concerned mind more than a jealous one. If she needed Eragon's help to figure out what to do without telling him about the elven politics, she would have to show him how it worked and hope that he would understand, for the words to explain it could not come out of her mouth. She watched as Eragon entered the conference room where Arya and Deathada had been meeting for the past days. He involuntarily took a deep breath to calm his nerves, and that was the moment Arya felt a bad feeling, as she had made a big mistake. Deathada, on the other hand, seemed relaxed, pleased even, as he expected, and enjoyed Eragon's company. He was pretending, of that Arya was sure. I appreciate the invitation for me to join you. If I can be of any help, just say the word, Eragon said as he took a seat. Arya was conscious of his choice of words, trying not to mention the Eldenari and the egg they had to retrieve. You are always of great help, Shadeslayer, Deathada responded with kindness. And though that you are coming with us is a great relief. I feel more confident in the mission already. Arya's stomach sunk, and she didn't know why. We are devising a way to get my throne back. We need to get you informed before we go. Eragon nodded, encouraging her to continue. We have been in constant communication with Vanya, or as much as possible, since he is in disguise, watching the movements in Elismera, she said, trying not to reveal too much. The important thing was for him to stay unaware of his influence on the coup. He should not know that their union meant a big threat to her crown and life. Last time he had a chance to scry us, he had managed to gather my supporters in a meeting. His next move is to organize them and wait for my return. That has to be right away. Then you will fight the traitors, he asked with concern. That is the only way, Deathada said softly. Eragon frowned as he disagreed with the elf. Arya felt satisfaction to realize he had seen where Deathada was misleading her. She wished to negotiate, for a fight would mean that she would have to use her powers as a rider against her people. How could she not? When fighting Orin in the south, she almost died trying to be fair and leaving Fernan behind, or hiding her magic. She wouldn't make the same mistake when the time was right, but the time was not right. There was much more they could do before spilling elven blood. The only way. Fighting is never the only way, my lord. Especially when we are talking about a monarch marching against her subjects. Oh, sometimes it is. You above everyone else should attest that. And she wouldn't be marching against her subjects, but her traitors. Are you saying that there isn't a way for Arya to take back what's hers without shedding elven blood? They shed ours first. So we strike back. Eragon shook his head and almost laughed to hear that. He looked at Arya, and she saw a silent plead for permission. He wanted to confront the noble elf. Very discreetly she nodded to him. "You sound like a resentful child, Lord Deathada, if you'll excuse my harshness. It's your queen's life that is at stake. Would you gamble with it just to strike back?" As Arya could see, her advisor had a satisfied expression. Almost undetected, but it was there. It made sense to her now. It was clear Deathada was not trying to mislead her to take the wrong path, but to make Eragon know what he ignored. "Well, would you?" Deathada asked back. "Of course I wouldn't. But you are, right now." Now Arya knew why her stomach had sunk instants before. Deathada was about to tell Eragon her secret. She had made a big mistake, one she could not take back. It was too late now to stop him from knowing. "What do you mean?" Eragon looked from Deathada to Arya, but she could not hold his stare. Her mind was running fast, trying to change the subject, but she knew that when Eragon had a question, he would go to any lengths to have it answered. "What is he talking about? Arya, what am I doing to harm you?" They waited on her response that never came. So Eragon turned to the Lord again. "What did you mean by that?" Deathada wore his best confused mask to deliver the news. "I thought you knew, Shadeslayer. I am sorry for intruding like that." He put his hand on his chest in an act of contrition. Queen Arya's opposition, among other things, claims that her proximity to you is an offense to the sovereignty of our people. They declared that if you two were to be mates, then the suitability of our queen could be questioned. It is one of the main reasons why they want her head. To end your influence on her, Arya closed her eyes and clenched her fists. In one sentence, Deathada could have ruined her relationship with Eragon forever. First, for lying to him for so many years. Second, Eragon would never accept being with her if it meant her trouble or harm. When she opened her eyes again, she saw him looking down at the table trying to figure out what to say. Deathada did not give him time to think. "I thought it was obvious that your union meant big problems in elven politics. I knew it meant trouble. I just couldn't imagine it involved a coup and death threats." He looked at Arya, and she saw he was angry. Arya is the most powerful individual in all Alagaezia, Shadeslayer. I wouldn't worry about her safety that much. Besides, she is not alone, she has me. If he could make it all worse, he managed to do just that with his last words. Eragon stood up at once and stormed out of the room. Arya motioned to follow him, but Deathada's hand on her wrist made her halt. "Leave him be, your majesty." For now, at least, her sunken stomach had gained the company of a broken heart. Eragon would not understand. He would never forgive her. He did not know where to go or what to do next, but his feet brought him to climb the stairs toward the Hall of Colors, perhaps to find comfort in their vast consciousness. He walked trying to fight the angry tears from falling. It didn't take long until he saw himself at the door, reaching for the knob. "Little one. Stop blocking me, please." In a start, he realized he had been keeping Saphira away. He let her in and learned that she was out, teaching the students. "Oh, little one, I'm sorry." He retreated his hand from the doorknob to wipe his face. Me too." There was a pause so she could pass her sympathy to him through their thoughts. It helped a little, but his heart was too sore. "I would like you to have more time to think about it all, but I bring news." "About Nasuada. What is it?" "The baby is coming, little one." "Your nephew or niece?" "They are expecting you in the Eyrie to help bring the child to this world." Without hesitation, Eragon ran to the Eyrie. Dealing with his broken heart would have to wait. From the outside, the Eyrie seemed uninhabited, but when he opened the door, Nasuada's screams made a shiver run throughout his whole body. Around her, the elves chanted to bring the child in safety to the world, as Murtog held her hand and looked like he was going to pass out any minute. He wasn't sure what he was doing there, or what he was supposed to do, but he approached the bed where Yayla was doing her best to deliver the child. As soon as he got close enough, Estrith held his hand so he could join his voice with the others. Their chanting little by little helped soothe Nasuada's pain, and soon her screaming became a quiet panting. Eragon relaxed his shoulders to know it was working. The words put him in a trance. The elves rocked him from side to side. He felt the energy running through his body. It started in his hands that were firmly held by Estrith and Rilvan, and travelled through his arms, shoulders, torso, and legs until it reached his feet. From there, it would travel back up then again to his fellow spellcasters. It was a powerful cycle of energy like he had only experienced a handful of times. Once he opened his eyes without ever breaking the chain just to see how Nasuada was brave. She looked like a warrior, although the act of giving birth had nothing to do with war, but everything to do with love. People say war and love are two sides of the same coin, so his comparison didn't seem so absurd after all. The birth lasted a minute or an hour, he would never know, since his mind was so focused on chanting the words, but when it was done, it was like the sun had melted all the snow and the world was colourful again. A baby boy, brand new, being held by his mother right in front of him. He was his blood, his family. Such a powerful feeling could never be described, only felt. He smiled at the new parents. They were radiant. Scared, yes, as all parents were when they first held their children, but radiant, nevertheless. It was their moment, and only theirs. So he bent his head respectfully and left with the others. On his way out, he looked around to see that the handmaids had prepared the place to be the home of a little child for the next days or weeks. Maybe months. It was never the purpose of the Eyrie, but he couldn't lie. To see it like that could only bring joy to his heart. Eragon sat back in his chair, observing the couple with their newborn. It was a happy evening for the new family, but he was only partially content. In all honesty, he was feeling miserable, like he had never felt before. The thought of leaving Arya was so strange that it felt like somebody else's idea, but one he couldn't shake away. It felt like he had lost a part of himself along a very long road and replaced it with a spare part that belonged to another fellow. His life suddenly felt unfamiliar. But it was the logical thing to do to preserve her well-being, to keep her where she wanted to be, in Elismera, as the ruler of the elves. The baby started to cry in his crib, so Murtagh went to pick him up since Nasuada was resting from a strenuous day. They had named him Eric. Prince Eric. One day, king of the Brodring kingdom, and one of the most powerful men in Alagaesia. But for now, he was only a newborn, who needed to be swung from side to side, with his father singing very quietly to him. Murtagh was a man who would not go anywhere so soon. Eragon knew that even if Alagaesia erupted in blood and war, he was going to stay put with his son in his arms. That's when he had an idea. "I wonder why you didn't think of this earlier," Saphira said. "I wasn't desperate enough," she laughed. "Are you decided to do it? Do you think they will accept my decision?" "I don't see why not. I see why not. It's your anxiety speaking." "They will accept it, I am sure of it." Saphira was right. He felt insecure about taking that step. It was temporary, but still a big change in his life. For 20 years, his life adapted to the same attributions, so to change now caused him some nervousness. And to put someone like his brother in his place sounded even more daunting. "Brother," he said low enough not to startle the child that rested in his arms. Murtagh looked at him to see Eragon standing up and walking to him. Eragon put a hand on his brother's shoulder and looked at the baby that had calmed himself. "I need your help," he whispered. Murtagh furrowed his brow and looked at Eragon with concern. Then he put Eric back in the crib and walked Eragon outside where they could talk freely. "Tell me, what can I do for you, brother? I need you to take my place while I'm gone." "Is that something you can do?" Eragon watched understanding in his brother's eyes. He understood that his new duty would allow him, almost compel him, to stay with his family in Mount Anga. He wouldn't have to fight so far away from his wife and child. He understood. So he nodded and hugged Eragon so tight that he struggled to breathe. Murtogh didn't know, but that hug was all Eragon needed then to mend his wounded heart. Later that night, he walked inside the treehouse wondering when he would ever see it again. He wondered if she would ever forgive him for doing what he had to do. If she didn't, it would be unfortunate, but it wouldn't change anything. Anything for her, right? Anything.